Last time, the squad did manage to survive, but that was mainly due to their senpais. So what will happen now that they're all alone? Level 7. The Rainbow on the Other Side. This volume kicks off with the squad following Lala and Nonon into the Night Realm. However, they immediately say their goodbyes as the Dominatrix and Pet set off on their own. Just as you'd expect, the squad panics for a moment, but eventually they gather themselves and set off into the Night Realm. They decide to head in the same direction as Lala, and after a while they stumble upon a decomposed corpse. Kuzaku scavenges a shield from the body, while Haru takes some black tokens. The squad then continues on their merry way until Yume gets her throat torn to pieces after being tackled to the ground. The unknown creature ran away as quickly as it appeared, leaving behind the now dying Yume. Everyone knows that magic probably isn't going to work, but Mary casts her strongest healing spell anyways. Miraculously, the spell works and saves Yume. However, it took 3 times longer than normal and consumed a hell of a lot more magic. Ranta then summons Zodiac as they continue on their journey into this world, and eventually they stumble upon a small village surrounded by a moat. Haru is unsure of how to proceed, as the humanoid lookout was rather aggressive toward him. However, Ranta slaps on his helmet and walks right into the village without any issues. Surprisingly, Ranta noticed a pattern among the villagers, which he just tested. It turns out that anyone can enter the village as long as your head is covered. So the squad covers up and enters into the village where they find multiple shops, including a blacksmith. Now the squad is unable to speak the language of the village, but they desperately need water. However, a guard won't allow them to use the well, and he even throws their money away. Haru then offers up the black tokens that he found earlier, which the guard gladly accepts as payment. The squad realizes that they will need more of these black tokens in order to purchase food, so they leave the village to scour the area. The nearby forest turns out to be untraversable, so they head on over to the river. Shiho randomly finds a large token sitting in the bottom of the river, but upon returning to the village, they find that the gate is closed, which leaves them with no other option than to camp outside for the night. Okay, let's clear this up real quick. The Night Realm does have day and night cycles, but it's basically like comparing these 2 shades of black. The point is, it's always dark. The next day, the squad wakes up and heads into the village where they successfully purchase food using the tokens, and afterward they head back to the river to take a bath. The girls go to bathe first, as Kuzaku physically pins Ranta to the ground in order to prevent him from peeping. Though after hearing Yume's battle cry, the boys quickly rush over to see what's going on. They find that the girls are under attack, which causes Haru to uncharacteristically charge toward the foe to use Spider. Though to counter this, the creature grapples Haru back as it jumps into the air, body slamming him into the ground. Kuzaku and Ranta chase off the enemy as the currently naked Mary begins healing Haru. Yes, that detail about Mary being naked was very important, because it allows me to point out that Haru is a respectable young man who purposely kept his eyes closed the entire time. The next day, the squad heads south from the village and finds a swamp littered with skeletons. They rummage through the bones and end up finding a decent amount of money, along with some new weapons. However, after a while, they are attacked by a huge black dog. Now this hound is the size of a tiger, and puts up a good fight, but with the combined effort of Ranta's weakening magic and Shiho's lightning magic, they end up driving it away. Next, we're back at the village where the squad is interacting with the blacksmith. They can't really speak the language, but they know enough to buy and sell goods. And without any other leads, the squad continues to spend their days looting the swamp and running from the hounds. However, today, the squad has run into poisonous snakes, and Ranta winds up being poisoned. Mary is able to nullify the poison, and we get a very brief but very cute scene where Ranta rests his head on Yume's lap. Later that night, Haru is woken up by Shiho as a new humanoid has arrived at the village with a massive cart. They enter the village after it, where they find the cart being unloaded at the blacksmith. The squad helps to unload the charcoal and then begins following the cart, which leads them north to a road. This leads them to the charcoal maker's camp. However, they decide to call it quits for the day and head back to the village. During the trip home, Haru beats himself up about being a poor leader, until Yume hears some rustling from the forest. They are suddenly attacked by 6 weird monkey-like creatures. Kuzaku immediately sends one flying, as Ranta quickly kills another, though after witnessing Ranta's greatness, the other monkeys immediately turn tail and flee. Then under Haru's command, the squad takes the dead monkey back to the village with them in order to eat it for dinner. The squad continues their routine of living at the village and looting the swamp until the 19th day, where they return to the village to find an actual human. This man is named Unjo, and he is completely overwhelmed by the sight of humans. But he does mention that you can't get back to Grimgar, and he also says that they should go hunt at a nearby ruined city. Upon reaching the city, Haru scouts the area alone, where he comes across a wide-eyed humanoid creature. He leads the creature back to the squad, where they realize that it doesn't have a sense of pain, and this means that it absolutely won't slow down until it's dead. Haru winds up drop-kicking it, which allows Ranta and Kuzaku to finish it off before it can get up. They search the body, find some decent loot, and decide to make this their new hunting ground. Then later on, we find Haru and Kuzaku taking a bath, where Kuzaku opens up about his insecurities of trying to fill the gap left behind by Moguzo. Haru then brings up Mary. But before that, let's talk about today's sponsor. Look, chances are you found me because you like anime, and HIDIVE just so happens to be the easiest streaming service to use. Their catalog contains over 500 different titles, and they run absolutely zero advertisements on their platform. Then just as you'd expect, they offer a 30-day free trial, but even after that runs out, they are still by far the cheapest anime streaming service around. HIDIVE really is my go-to place for anime, and if you want to know my favorite anime on their platform, then be sure to check out the video I published last week. So Haru brings up Mary, which causes Kuzaku to explain their relationship. It turns out Kuzaku and Mary quickly bonded because they were both additions to the party, but Kuzaku really does love Mary. However, upon confessing his feelings, he was very quickly and very abruptly shut down. Now, the squad continues to frequent the ruined city, and one day they accidentally attract the attention of a wide-eye that is too strong for them to handle. Haru goes off on his own to act as a decoy and runs to the second floor of a building. Of course, the wide-eye follows him into the building, so he is left with no other choice than to jump out of the second-story window. Now, he safely lands on the ground and escapes with the squad, but Mary promptly scolds Haru for using himself as bait. Later on that night, Haru is woken up by Shiho, who also scolds him for acting as bait, but she also praises him for his leadership. Shiho also shows Haru the new type of magic she invented, which basically allows a magic element to manifest itself as a creature. Shiho then bluntly asks Haru if he is in love with Mary, which he proceeds to deny. It's now the 49th day in the Night Realm, and we find the squad fighting a particularly strong wide-eye. Kuzaku is using all of his strength to hold it back, while the rest of the squad chips away at it. During this battle, Shiho summons an elemental which she named Dark, and sends it flying into the wide-eye. Dark is extremely effective, and causes the wide-eye to collapse to the ground. However, it does wind up escaping anyways. The squad heads back to the village, where they follow Unjo into what they thought was a general store. This store turned out to be an archive, and they learn more about the origins of the Night Realm, and they then follow Unjo into another building. This second building is filled with items the squad is unfamiliar with, but by the descriptions we are given, we can determine that these items originate from Earth. Then everyone, including Unjo, discusses how they feel like there was a world before Grimgar. I want to point out that Haru thinks about the world before Grimgar at least once or twice every volume. I just don't mention them as they are very brief and unimpactful on the overall story. Unjo then explains that he has been living in the Night Realm for 15 long years, but he is willing to show them how he arrived. Unjo leads the way through the forest, past the charcoal maker's camp, eventually arriving at a very chaotic and very dangerous city. Unjo guides them to a house where they meet a humanoid woman with white skin, and she turns out to be Unjo's wife. A few days pass and the group sets out, crossing a tattered bridge, incapacitating a whole bunch of tree people and fighting off multiple large reptiles. Eventually they arrive at a hot spring just outside of a massive cliff, which they proceed to enter through a crevice. Inside the cliff, they find a massive orc city which is completely surrounded by rivers of lava. Unjo then explains that on the other side of the city is a mountain with a dragon, and on the other side of that dragon you will find Grimgar. And the squad seriously begins debating whether or not they should just settle down in the Night Realm. However, the receiver vibrates, and Soma Squad gives them words of encouragement, stealing their resolve to make it back home. Unjo then returns to his wife as Haru begins scouting this massive orc city. This takes quite a while, and the squad even returns to the village multiple times to buy supplies. It's now the 200th day in the Night Realm, and the orcs seem to be preparing for a festival. Though as Haru is leaving the city, he feels as though something is following him, and as he reaches the squad, his pursuers reveal themselves to be Lala and Nonon. The day of the Orc Festival has arrived, which our group plans to use as a distraction for their escape. At one point, Haru and Nonon scout ahead, where Haru is forced to incapacitate an orc child as he's unable to bring himself to kill it. The child eventually awakens and alerts the city to the human presence, so we currently find our group running through the city dealing with any orcs they encounter. They do manage to escape the city, but that was mainly due to the orcs refusing to follow them into the volcanic mountain. Now inside the mountain, Ranta begins acting like Ranta, causing Haru to accidentally step into a puddle of lava. However, before Mary has a chance to heal his foot, the summit begins to move as the dragon makes its appearance. Lala and Nonon are already gone, and the squad begins to chase after them. Due to Haru's injured foot though, he is falling behind, and he throws himself to the ground, narrowly avoiding the dragon's fire breath. But after a few moments, he picks himself up and follows the dragon, which is chasing the squad. At one point, the pain and exhaustion becomes too much to bear, so Haru completely gives up, collapsing to the ground. After a lot, and I mean a lot of self-pity, Haru rolls away, dodging an attack, and turns to face his opponent. He musters up the last of his strength and assaults the orc, as he knows he's too weak to defend against its attack. It's still not enough though, so he unleashes Assault, and attacks so viciously that he even sinks his teeth into the orc's flesh. Haru wins the battle, but the unbearable pain and exhaustion begins to creep in on him once again. At this point, he is frequently wavering, in and out of consciousness, but he continues to move forward until he eventually hears the sounds of his comrade's footsteps. If you do end up buying the books, just use my Amazon link. That way a little bit of your money will come back to support the channel. Shout out to HIDIVE for sponsoring this video, and thank you to all my lovely patrons. A special thanks to my newest patron, Simba Inashe Muswe. Thanks for watching everyone, and I hope to see you next time.